You know, I think about this all the time, and I agree, medicine can feel and seem like an advanced form of witchcraft. Like, even though there's real science and it's measurable, observable, it doesn't make it any less mystic. Like, think about it, like, excuse me while I go get my blood drawn, and this little tiny vial of blood's gonna go somewhere, and someone's gonna give me answers about my well being. Or take this vaccine and neutralize an unseen force.
So, I do believe that a diagnosis is almost like a spell that modern medicine puts on your body because they actually make it real. Do you know what I'm saying? Does this make sense to anyone? Like, the thing is, the more you seek, the more diagnoses you accumulate, and the more spells you have on your body. And I do think, honestly, I truly believe after like being in modern medicine, then also being in the functional medicine space, like the more diagnoses you accumulate doesn't mean the faster you heal. No, it usually means the more supplements you're on, the more medication you're on, and almost the sicker you become. And I truly believe that diagnoses are almost like spells that we put on our body and ourselves.
Pharmacy. It sounds so innocent, doesn't it? So clinical, so clean. You walk into one, you see the bright lights, the white coats, the neatly organized shelves. It feels like safety. It feels like help. But what if I told you that every time you say that word, every time you walk through those doors, you are participating in something far older, far darker, and far more spiritual than you ever imagined? Because pharmacy doesn't mean what you think it means. It never did. The word comes from the Greek word pharmakia, and pharmakia doesn't mean medicine. It doesn't mean healing. In the ancient world, pharmakia meant sorcery. It meant the use of drugs, potions, and spells to alter consciousness, to bind people, to control them. The Bible lists pharmakia right alongside idolatry and witchcraft in Galatians chapter 5. It's in the same category as sorcery. So the very foundation of our modern healthcare system, the very name of the industry we trust with our lives, is rooted in a word that Scripture calls a spiritual poison.
Okay, guys, so I just had to share this because I'm working with a legit witch here in the ER tonight. So anyone who knows me knows that I get hiccups all the time. All the time. At least once a day. Have since I was a kid. Always have the hiccups. So I get the hiccups at work tonight, and I'm sitting beside one of my nurses, and she looks at me and she's like, would you like me to buy your hiccups from you? And I said, excuse me, what? She's like, yeah, my mom does this and my grandma does this, and it works really well. And I don't know, I haven't tried it. Let's try it. And so she gave me a quarter, normal quarter. It looks me in the eyes and says, can I buy your hiccups from you? And I said, yes. And she was like, and you promise not to take them back? And I was like, yes. She closes my hand over the quarter. No more hiccups. No more hiccups. The hell?
Now, I need you to understand something fundamental about how this world operates. Something you've been trained to ignore. There is such a thing as an energy exchange. Everything is energy. Your time, your attention, your focus, your money, it's all energy. And when you give your energy to something, you are entering into a transaction. You are feeding something. You are empowering something, whether you realize it or not, whether you believe in it or not. And that sickness you like to claim as your own, you know how it goes. My anxiety, my diabetes, my flu, my depression. You attach it to your identity like a badge of honor. You say it like it belongs to you. And the more you claim it, the more you own it, the more it owns you. This, my friend, is a spiritual law known as the law of agreement. Just like that woman in the video talking about her hiccups. She was dealing with something small, but the principle is the same. The moment you accept it as yours, you enter into a covenant with it. You give it permission to stay. But before we go any further, and I mean this sincerely, I need to clarify something for anyone whose mind might oversimplify the subject of this video. We are not saying that every doctor, every nurse, is driving an evil agenda. Far from it. Because some of them mean well for you. There are many wonderful, compassionate people in medicine who genuinely want to help. I believe that, but here is what I am presenting to you. You live in a spiritual world, a world with forces of light and forces of darkness spread out across every system and institution. In government, in law enforcement, in finance, in education, and yes, even in the health system. These systems are battlegrounds. They are not neutral. They never were. And the enemy is a master of infiltration. He doesn't need everyone to be evil. He just needs the system itself to be compromised. And once a system is compromised, it becomes a pipeline for control, whether the people inside it know it or not. Now, if you doubt what I'm saying, if you think this is all a bit too conspiratorial, I want you to ask yourself a simple question. A question that cuts through all the noise. Why is it that some sicknesses, and I'm choosing my words very carefully here, they've been turned into a form of subscription, a for-life contract. You go to the doctor, they give you a diagnosis, a label, a name for your condition, and then they hand you a prescription and say, take this every single day for the rest of your life, and you do it. You pay them money, month after month, year after year, and you never actually get any better. You just get managed. You're not healed. You're just maintained. You're not set free. Now, you may oversimplify this and think it's just your money they want, but it's deeper than that. Ask yourself what your money represents. It's your sweat, hard work, your emotions, your toil. And that energy is what you pay with when you hand over that cash to pay for your next subscription to the disease you've been convinced belongs to you. Ask yourself, why is it that everything is now a subscription? Your phone, your TV, your music, your software, and now your health. They don't want to cure you. If they cured you, you'd stop paying. They want you dependent. They want you coming back. They want your energy, your money, your attention, your very identity, all funneled into their system. And we'll go deeper on who is actually feeding on that energy in future videos. Now, I need you to watch something else. Something that will pull back the curtain just a little bit further, because what you're about to see, it might shift your perspective and how you look at many of these illnesses.
Did you know that most disorders actually have demons connected to it? You heard that right. Demons, meaning disembodied spirits. Haven't you ever wondered when somebody goes into a blind rage or they're completely obliterated drunk and you're like, I feel like I'm not talking to you anymore. It's like something else has taken over. And that's because something has. It is a demon, which is a disembodied spirit. Now, demons enter in through open doors or legal rights. I have an article in the link in my bio called The Legal Rights of Demons, where it goes in depth on that of how demons actually get into a person's life. But this video is connected to my series called Bridging the Gap Between Mental Illness and Spiritual Health. And if you don't know me, my name is Jenny Joy. And 7 years ago, I had multiple mental illness diagnoses. I walked into a church to receive prayer for my back pain. I manifested demons for 3 hours. And since then, I've been completely delivered of multiple mental illness diagnosis and completely symptom free and have gotten off medication. So I am covering many mental illnesses in this series. And today we are going to talk about borderline personality disorder, better known as BPD, which I feel like is one of the diagnoses that a lot of people on social media are currently very invested, infatuated, and interested in. So let's break it down. I'm going to read you what the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Manual of Mental Disorders, has to say for the criteria of borderline personality disorder. And then I'm going to discuss the demons that can be behind this disorder. Now, just because you receive a deliverance might not mean that you get completely free from every single symptom of a disorder. You may have to do additional work like therapy, counseling, etc. But let's dig into what the DSM-5 has to say about this. BPD is characterized by a pervasive pattern of instability in interpersonal relationships, self-image, and emotions, along with marked impulsivity. To be diagnosed with BPD, an individual must exhibit 5 or more of the 9 specific criteria. Now, I had a really, really, really good friend when I first got sober. Well, we're still friends, but we live on opposite sides of the country and we don't talk as much as we used to. But she was one of my best friends in early sobriety. I had certain diagnosis, she had certain diagnosis, and we bonded very much so over that. And she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So I have come into very close contact with somebody who has been tormented by this disorder. Obviously, I have not had it personally, although I've had many other disorders that the Lord has set me free from, but I have seen it up close and personal. And so here are the 9 specific criteria. Number 1, including frantic efforts to avoid abandonment. There is a major fear of abandonment with people who are BPD. Number 2, unstable and intense relationships. Number 3, identity disturbance. They often have a poor or low sense of self. Number 4, impulsivity, highly impulsive. Number 5, suicidal behavior or self-harm. Number 6, affective instability. Number 7, chronic feelings of emptiness. Number 8, inappropriate, intense anger. And I would say / serious mood swings. So it can be extreme sadness, extreme anxiety, extreme anger. And number 9, transient paranoid ideation or severe dissociative symptoms. Because if you don't know this, every single personality disorder is actually the result of trauma, including histrionic personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, obviously borderline personality disorder. I would say the biggest spirit that affects people who have this diagnosis is a spirit of rejection. Multiple things fall under the spirit of rejection, including suicide or suicidal ideation, which a lot of people with BPD struggle with self-harm or suicide attempts, okay? But that falls under a spirit of rejection, perfectionism, self-hatred, self-punishment, loneliness, depression, codependency. These all fall under a spirit of rejection, and most people with BPD struggle with almost every single one of those things. And there's more that falls under the spirit of rejection. But I would also include spirits of abandonment, trauma spirits. Multiple things can come in through trauma, and that depends on the person and what the person has gone through. So every single deliverance case would be different, meaning there might be different demons connected to different traumas for that person in particular. People who have BPD have had serious interpersonal trauma. They have had serious abandonment or neglect or invalidation for long periods of time, often in childhood, and then it shows up in adulthood, in their teen years, etc. And so trauma spirits, spirits of fear, spirits of rejection, 100% spirits of idolatry, because they a lot of the times can be sex and love addicts, which is something that I got delivered of. They can be actual addicts and alcoholics, which one of my closest friends who was diagnosed with this disorder was those things as well. And so there can be spirits of addiction, spirits of idolatry, and spirits of pride, spirits of control, etc. Now, if the individual deals with extreme control and manipulation, there can be a Jezebel spirit there. There can be witchcraft spirits, even if the person has never participated in any witchcraft whatsoever. When there's extreme control and extreme manipulation, there often is also a spirit of witchcraft. And so just because a person may have hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of demons, it doesn't mean that Jesus Christ cannot set them free. I had over 1,000 demons and I got completely delivered. I had many addictions, a ton of trauma, a ton of witchcraft stuff. I had opened pretty much every single spiritual door known to man. Demons had infested my life, my mind, and my body, and I got completely delivered. And you can too. So if you are diagnosed with BPD, know that it is not forever. It is not progressive. You can get better with mind renewal, with deliverance, with seeking Jesus, with having support, and with doing work with a counselor, with a therapist, with a support group that can encourage you to make changes in your life. The Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You can be.
That was Jenny Joy, an ex-witch. Some of you might recognize her. I've covered her testimony on this channel before. Now, one of the reasons I appreciate her content, and we're about to go on a deep dive into what she just said, is because of how practical it is. She didn't just say, only see a therapist. And she didn't just say, come, let's cast out the demon and that's all you need. She gave you something balanced, something you can actually work with. Here's what people don't realize. Health, wellness and wholeness aren't the same thing. They're related, but they're not interchangeable. And I'll explain how. In the scriptures, we see Jesus healing people. Some of them, he simply speaks a word and they're healed. But with others, like a certain blind man, he molds mud with spit and puts it on his eyes. He used a physical substance. He engaged with the natural world. And then there's that moment when the disciples ask Jesus, "Who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" And this is important. It shows that some conditions can come as a result of sin. Now, before you get defensive, understand what sin actually means. It simply means to miss the mark, to fall short. The disciples were essentially asking, whose actions, or lack thereof, led to a spiritual condition that affected this man physically? They understood that the spiritual and the physical are connected. Now, let's shift gears to the demon-possessed man, the one you've probably heard about. The man whose demons identified themselves as Legion. Not one demon, not two, a whole multitude. And this aligns perfectly with what Jenny Joy just spoke about, because this man had countless demons, and many of them caused him to behave in the same way we see people with certain diagnoses acting today. Self-harm, isolation, extreme violence. These aren't just modern conditions, they're ancient patterns. They've always been with us. Here's the bottom line, and I want to reiterate this clearly. We live in a fallen world. And yes, sometimes you will get sick. That's just the reality of living in a broken creation. But the essence of this video, the whole point, is to open your eyes to a world that wants you to agree passively, like a sheep being led to the slaughter, with everything you're told concerning your health. You need wisdom. And you also need discernment. And for the record, when I say life is spiritual, I mean all of it, including your physical life. Failing to seek medical attention in the name of spirituality isn't wisdom. It's foolishness. You live in a physical world. And the same way you rely on a tailor to sew your clothes so you don't walk around naked, God has also granted wisdom to men and women in medicine to help cure many illnesses. He is the one who gave them that knowledge. The discernment I'm talking about allows you to exercise proper judgment whenever you encounter health challenges. So let me leave you with this. Don't be naive. Don't be a sheep, but don't be reckless either. Test everything. Hold on to what is good. And above all, seek the one who heals both body and soul. With that said, I'll see you in the next video.